Welcome, everybody. This is a video or a podcast, if you prefer the audio only version. For those of you who are considering joining the Dynamite Circle, we're going to take the time to talk about many of the most frequently asked questions today with my guest, Priscilla, who's our head of marketing. So welcome, Priscilla. I understand that you've pulled together basically a list of questions that we get on applications and in new member introduction calls. So we're going to go over some of those today.
Correct. So I think a good place to start would be kind of the history of the DC. You know, how did it actually start? We're at a point now where we have over 1,000 members, but we didn't quite start that way.
Well, first I want to say, we represent a fairly sizable full-time team. So we just got off our morning huddle. We have 2 full-time community managers. We have an event manager. We have a CTO who does all of the platform tech and connecting members via our online platform. We also have paid facilitators that run masterminds, and all of our paid facilitators are typically folks who are more senior in their career. They're what people would call post-economic. They're effectively retired. They're paid, but they more or less are facilitators in the community because they want to give back. They're mentors for the community. And so there's 12 of us. I just want to kind of get that point across, that it's not just me and you. There's 12 of us that help to keep the DC community running smoothly, and always looking for ways to do new things. So back to your question, for me, the DC started with an idea, which is well, what if I could just pay my rent with the work I do on my laptop? And if I could fulfill that promise, then I wouldn't have to drive 2 hours a day to go to my job and sit at a desk for 8 hours. I could then have a lot of time back, so I could explore entrepreneurial ideas. I could explore hobbies. And then if I'm not going to the office, well, I could be anywhere. So now I could explore the world. And what if I could do all these things and not completely crater my career? I wanted to make sure that I could do this sort of travel entrepreneurial thing, but that it wasn't going to destroy my chances of being financially successful. In the early days, I was basically just well, F it. I'm going to go see what happens, So I got a plane ticket, I got a laptop and took off. And what happened is I started meeting a bunch of other people who were doing this too. I was extremely curious, well, how are you making this happen? How are you sitting in a rice paddy in Bali? How are you hanging out in Spain for the summer? What's happening? And this curiosity made me realize how unique and rare it was to find these people. And I had the time to find them, because the reality is the internet isn't an accurate representation of reality. And if you read about entrepreneurship on the internet, you're reading it from the 1% of founders who say what's going on. And I wanted to hear from the 99% that are actually doing it. And that was sort of the genesis of the DC. Well, let's bring these people together. Let's start meeting up and having conversations and sharing openly about how we cracked this code of being able to make a living from our laptops. Over time, it's really progressed in terms of scale and ambition. What seemed like a crazy idea in 2009 has sort of turned more mainstream. This is actually a really good career path. This is a reliable way to generate wealth. So for me, it went from laptop and pay rent to, well, what if we could make 10 grand a month from that laptop? Now we can start to save money. We can start to make investments, build bigger enterprises. And nowadays we have a premium tier of the DC, which focuses on 7 and 8 figure businesses. And the conversations now are people that are doing 500,000, 1 million and beyond in earnings from their business annually. And they're doing it while maintaining time and location freedom. And they're doing it while maintaining complete equity control of their business. So this is what a lot of people in the past would deride as a, quote, lifestyle business, a good little lifestyle business. Oh, I'm making $1 million a year and building equity, and I have exit opportunities and I have investments. Yeah, that's what we focus on, is good little lifestyle businesses. That's what the DC is all about. We have members across all of those financial spectrums. We do have minimums, but we vet every founder and business for quality and for vibe, for lack of a better term. Are you a part of this group of adventurers, of freedom seekers who also have built legitimate businesses selling quality products or services and fundamentally doing it in a remote business from their laptops. I share like kind of my thought process through it because every member has their own version of that story, whether it's, I stumbled onto this thing as a side hustle, or I went to go teach English in Korea and like got excited about exploring the world, or, I was always big into tech and I built this SaaS tool and all of a sudden it took off. Everybody has their own version of, wouldn't it be great if I could fully own a business, be in control of my income, see the world while I'm doing it, and own my time? And that's really, I think, what connects us as DCers.
Cool. So DC members, who we call DCers, like you just mentioned,
Yeah.
the one thing pretty much that they all have in common is that they're running businesses from anywhere in the world, living life on their own terms, not sacrificing their balance between work and life. They're doing fun, interesting things. They're traveling. They're moving around with their family. They're not staying in one place all year long. But what are the different types of people you can find in this community? What are the different types of businesses that are represented?
I mean, we're all entrepreneurs. So sometimes, of course, like you go through those seasons where, you're working a lot because you have to make changes or whatever. But then that coming up, you're gonna go abroad for the summer, or you're gonna go on an adventure with the family or whatever. In terms of the composition of the community, we pulled the numbers recently, and it's remarkable that like of how distributed across industries it is. It's almost equal parts like SaaS, e-commerce, services, agencies, publishing, creators. It's really evenly distributed across the business models.
So each application that we receive from people who want to join the DC is actually looked at by a member of our team, and we accept or reject depending on if you fit the culture, if you qualify, you meet the criteria.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me about the personality, or like the vibe, as you said, of the type of person that would be a great fit for the DC.
I'll say it in the way that like we did one of these corporate exercises where we wrote down our brand promises. So our brand promises, like the first one is legit and verified. So we want to know that you're honest about what you've built, that you have significant amount of revenue. We look at your headcount. Are you paying for a team? How much experience do you have? And so verification is the first key thing that we care about. For us, it's important to differentiate from a lot of meetups and communities where, you can have a website and make a couple bucks and you're kind of trying to get gigs and business. We're not really interested in that. We're interested in people who have a business track record, established revenue with quality products and services, and ideally a team. We do have solo founders in the DC, but most DCers have a team, and it's just a representation of your track record and, that you're not kind of like changing gears every day, but you run a solid enterprise. That's really, I think, who our members want to connect with. So that's the first brand promise. Second, global citizen. The passion for travel is shared by almost all DCers, and everybody has their own version of that. Some of us have been hardcore digital nomads. Like I lived out of a backpack for years. And some of us still do. The majority of us have a home base now, but all of us are hiring internationally. I would say the average DCer spends probably like 7.5 to like 9.5 months at their home address. So if you like average out across the group, people are spending significant time in different locations, whether that's to be with family or to go abroad or snowbird or whatever your framework is for that. That's something that really connects the group. So we're a highly international group. The culture in like tech workers, say in America, I'm in America right now, you have these cultures in like New York and San Francisco that are very much about this script for what it means to be successful in those cities and what it means to be successful in tech. And a lot of those folks are coming from elite institutions and they have pedigree. I would say that that's not really the culture of the DC. Although we do have members that have come from elite institutions, we're more of the folks in the middle who saw what was happening in those technology centers and said, wow, I can use these platforms. I can use these tools to generate an incredible business. And then, hey, guess what? I don't need to live in Manhattan. Although we just had an event in New York City and some of our members do live there, but that's a choice. A lot of us will choose to live somewhere maybe that's less expensive or somewhere abroad for a period of time. And so there is this sort of secondary city quality to the membership where we have our own reasons for wanting to live someplace that's not necessarily directly correlated to ambition or our business prospects, but because we love it there or because we have other reasons to be there, whether it's family or hobbies or a home or whatever that reason is. So I do think that there's something about that. So that's all to say the second brand promise is this global citizen passion for travel idea. The third brand promise is idea of generosity and willingness to help others. There are groups with cultures that are admirable that are like, what have you done for me lately? What can I get out of this? Or I want to be here to see where everyone else is at because I want to outperform them. I want to be a part of the winners. I want to see where the hierarchy is and I want to be at the top of the heap. You know, there's a lot of this kind of culture and frankly, we don't like it. You know, that's just not our thing. And that's never been our thing. And from day one, it's always been about supporting each other, helping each other, sharing, celebrating the successes, engaging when people are having a tough time, and really just this kind of openness to be a part of something that you feel like you have people to talk to, whether, hey, I just made a huge deal and look at my bank account right now, and people will celebrate that. Or, oh, you know, a key employee left or a key client left. I got to call somebody right now. And so the concept in the DC is, you know, how many people with businesses that are larger than yours can you like pick up the phone right now and call? And the concept is if you spend some time in the DC, that number should double or triple or more of people that you can call immediately or text and be like, hey, I got something going on. You got 5.
And not just through business stuff, but life struggles and issues too. Like we've seen so much support for folks who've lost a home or gone through divorce or, you know, life happens and it's not just about the business in the DC. It's about the whole person. It's about lifestyle. It's about how can I help you, like you said, with the generosity.
Yeah.
So I think that's also what makes it super special. We're not gatekeeping anything. We're not like isolated and kind of just on our own. It's very much the definition of community is really personified in this group. So I think that makes it really special.
Yeah, I think maybe when you have like groups that are more industry specific, it can be more clearly hierarchical. Like this is what success looks like. Look at the person up on stage. They're the successful one. We're all some degree of difference away from them. Whereas in the DC, everybody's sort of setting their own targets. That's the concept is we're saying like, we're trying to be the better version of ourselves, you know? And I think that is a key principle of, for lack of a better term, I'm coming back to it, which is like a lifestyle business, which is you're setting the terms for, you know, what are your wealth targets? What are your travel targets? What kind of organization do you want to develop? And then having other people support you in your unique vision versus, you know, trying to impress people that don't care. We have a really interesting event every year in Bangkok. And the whole reason why it's there and how that all happened is maybe for another show. But suffice it to say, there's 400 members that come to Bangkok in October. And I got cornered by one of our mentors on a rooftop. He said, this is so different than anywhere else I've ever been. This is a completely unique room. And I was like, please tell me, because I don't know how to explain it. And he said, it's the generosity. It's the generosity. Everybody is here to help each other. Everybody's playing by those rules. And it creates a feeling, a vibe that I think is exciting to go back. You want to be in the room where everybody is helping each other. And you see people get pulled off into a side conversation and they sit down and they open up their notebooks and they just dig in. And they know that they're there to give and get helped. And it's a cool feeling. And so that's why we put that as the third thing in our corporate exercise is there is this thing that we want to find founders who love that and want to be a part of it.
We have so many members who share that sentiment or have been in other business type communities that either moved over to the DC because they weren't feeling like they were getting what they needed from those other groups, or they just felt like they didn't quite fit in. So I feel like DC is for kind of the outsiders. We talk about people having quirky interests and like interesting lifestyles that you wouldn't necessarily find in those stuffier groups, or like, everybody kind of comes with an ego or with what's the word I'm looking for? You know what I mean? It's like, you're not yourself. You're not showing up as your genuine, authentic selves.
We're a little bit of the island of misfit toys. Yeah, we're a bunch of weirdos. We made unique decisions to jump out of a traditional success path and to define it for ourselves. And in the meantime, a lot of our members have become wildly successful because they did something unique. And they hang around and they share their experience and their knowledge, and they get a lot out of it as well. And the other thing about that, though, is because of that, you do have to give to get. So it's a community in the sense that you have to show up and to start conversations and to share from your experience in order to get value in a community like this.
The members who get the most out of this community are really the ones who show up at events, offer to speak, lead workshops, participate in the forum. So talk to me about some ways that members can connect with each other using the community, and basically what do you get out of your membership when you join?
Yeah, like we said, the promise is that whatever the number of successful founders that you have in your phone right now that you can call for a 5-minute check-in, the idea is after joining the DC that number would double or triple or more. And so what you're going to get is the opportunity to connect with other people that are vetted, that are globally minded, and that are generous. And that's fundamentally it. How do we do that? Well, every month we have 20 meetups around the world in cities. We have an introduction call. Like when you join, you'll jump on with new members, with existent members, and our head of community. And so immediately you're going to meet people like your first month in the DC just through that process. We also have regular community calls that we actually have a platform that's kind of like a round robin system that matches people based on their profiles to have interesting conversations. So you don't have to leave your desk in order to get value from the DC. We have a vibrant online forum. There's all types of ways that you can join a mastermind. You can spark a conversation in the forum, jump on a call with a bunch of people. And that's sort of the first step is like the first month, you are going to double that number of people that you know. We also have a variety. We have over 100 WhatsApp groups that are based on different topics, groups of interest, and locations. And then I think it's really important that you get to one of our events within the first 6 months that you join. So asking our team, hey, here's where I'm located. Here's what my travel schedule looks like. What's the best event for me? Our basic model is we try to price these events as accessibly as possible so that you can go to as many events as possible. So we have a variety of different events from high-end stuff, New York and Barcelona, to very affordable, like let's all hang out for a weekend in this city and, go out to restaurants together and cafes and talk about business. So we're really trying to get members to come to as many events as possible. So that would be sort of my advice is figure out in that first 6-month period how you can get to a DC event, because it really accelerates your ability to understand what the community is all about and just supercharge the amount of friends that you have that are doing the same kinds of things you're doing.
Yeah, we talk about events as kind of the cheat code to your growth, not just in business, but as a human, as a leader. Talk to me about our 2 events in Mexico and Bangkok, because those are like highly, highly recommended for new members just coming in. Like, this is a great place to meet a ton of people. Talk to me about what the vibe of those events is. What can you expect to get out of those events?
Yeah, we were actually just working on some of the sort of content frameworks for our Mexico event coming up in May. I mean, they're notable because they are the largest two events in terms of attendees. And so if you can make it to those two, you will, meet the most amount of founders possible. And essentially, what's unique about them is they're completely designed to foster conversations and relationships. So you're not just like sitting in a large audience watching someone talk about success principles. We, have profiles for all the members. We know what you're interested in talking about, who you're interested in meeting. And you spend multiple days in these really nice accommodations in a variety of workshops, sharing tactics, of conversations, of masterminds, of informal meetups. A lot of our members come early and they stay late. So before and after the event, there's all kinds of meetups about topics, activities. People just, hey, if you have X amount invested in crypto, let's all talk about what we're doing with our portfolios. We're all meeting here. Hey, if you're interested in this kind of workout, we're going to be down on the beach doing this. So our members are really doing these kind of like long hang, like coming early, staying late. And then, a portion of us fly in, fly out. And the whole event is designed to just pack as many meaningful conversations into that 3 days as possible. So that's essentially, I've been to conferences where you kind of like sit in the audience and then you go to these lunches and then you kind of talk to the person next to you, but that's kind of it. It's like you got your notes in those lunch conversations. This isn't like that at all. Like you show up and there's like a mixer the moment you show up where you're talking about like real stuff with people you just met right away. You're going to remember their name. You're going to know who they are. You're going to bump into them 30 times the rest of the weekend. And so the whole concept is you're really going to walk out of there with a group of connections, people that you can call and follow up with and develop relationships with and ultimately build a support network that you'll have for years to come.
So we have a good amount of members who are running 7- and 8-figure businesses. So with that higher level of success comes a need for different conversations and relationships and tackling more specific challenges when it comes to running business. So what do we have in place for members like that who are at that higher level?
Yeah, I mean, about 1 in 3 DC businesses did over $1 million in revenue in the past 12 months. Now, in DC Black, which is simply a tier of the DC for those founders who run 7- and 8-figure businesses, 100% have done over $1 million in the past 12 months. And the whole concept of that group is essentially we were asked by our members like, hey, I love the DC. I love the vibe. I love the founders that are coming here and sharing their knowledge and discovering new ways to build interesting businesses on the web. I would love, like, at times to simply be in a room with folks who have larger teams, who have a different set of challenges. And so it was really a response from our members who asked us to do this. And so what we created was a series of 3 events annually. So we do North America, Europe, and Asia, combined with a track at our core events. So if you're a DC Black member and you come to Mexico or our Bangkok events, you'll still be a part of the group. You won't be sectioned off or anything, but you will have private time with other DC Black members. You will have private presenters. Your conversations will be focused on other members with 7- and 8-figure businesses, but you'll still be a part of the overall group at that event. And then also those members participate in monthly conversations with our facilitators who are very successful entrepreneurs in their own right, who are giving back to the group by facilitating these conversations. And so you have a regular group to check in with wherever you are in the world every single month. If you're going to join DC Black, you definitely need to come to a DC Black specific event because they're smaller, they're intimate, and the level of conversation is really incredible. If you're listening to this and you've built a 7- and 8-figure business remotely, you just don't bump into people like this every day. It's rare to meet people that have done this. And so we pull those people together and it's just a great group. So this year we're doing Thailand, Phuket, Barcelona, and New York City. So that's the event track there. And also, of course, Mexico, Playa del Carmen, and Bangkok. So there's really 5 events. Now, we do have members in DC Black who are not traveling much, and they're just in it for the virtual stuff. There are calls regularly, not only above and beyond the masterminds, but where members will jump on calls to share something that they've learned, say about AI automation or agents. This is a recent one we've been talking about, or sales process, or the exit process, or conversations that are very specific to 7 and 8 figure businesses.
Yeah, and we also have virtual sessions from external guests sometimes too.
Yeah.
So at the time we're recording this, we have a session about hiring next week, and it's based on neuroscience, and it's going to be a really interesting conversation. And those are the kinds of things that those members want. You know, they want people who have a certain level of expertise or more years of experience in a certain area. So we provide an environment for those members to learn even more in-depth stuff about business and leadership that is required at that level of success.
Yeah, that's right. And they also have a chat group, which is insane. The things they talk about.
Oh, the chat group goes crazy. I get pings at all hours of the night, and I'm just like, I know this is the DC Black group. And they're always talking about something super interesting. They're always asking questions. They're getting advice within minutes from people all over the world. It's like, I want to start a business in this country. Does anyone have advice? And there's somebody within 5 minutes that's like, yeah, I've done that before. Here's exactly what you need to do. So it's really cool.
Yeah, and really the DC is like, we said we have over 100 WhatsApp groups. So it's a big part of it for those of you that enjoy that kind of connecting with people and sharing ideas. Is they're just, if you're into it, they're flying everywhere. If you're not into it, there's plenty of other things to get value out of the DC. So yeah, and I think we mentioned it earlier, but there is a lot of those sorts of conversations happening across the community in all different kinds of topic groups and interest groups. Just like, hey, who's opened a company in Hong Kong? Who, here's a person that is like great at this. Like if you're looking for a YouTube editor or whatever, here's one. That kind of stuff is just happening on a daily basis.
So we've spoken about who the DC is for, and maybe there's somebody listening or watching to this right now that feels like, hey, this checks pretty much every box on my list of things I'm looking for in a community. I want to find people just like me who are doing what I'm doing that I can learn from. So how do you join?
So if you're into what you're hearing, we would love to have you. Just head on over to dynamitecircle.com. There's a bunch of application links. If you run a 7 or 8 figure business, I would go to the DC Black section. Our minimum revenue threshold is $100,000 a year, but the average business in the DC is somewhere around $500,000 in revenue if you average the businesses across. When you submit your application, we will get back to you within 48 hours. There's not an AI agent that looks at these things. We are looking at what you send us and taking the time to get to know you through your application and getting a sense for whether it would be a good fit or not. We'll notify you within 48 hours. For our base membership, it's $700 a year. And for the DC Black tier, with the facilitators and everything that's going on there, it's $5,500 a year. So a steal from my perspective.
A steal if you look at other business communities, that's for sure.
It's a steal.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you. And after you get approved to join the DC community, if you join DC Black, you will get a full onboarding call with my co-founder, Ian. And when you join the DC community in general, you will be invited to an introductory call where you'll meet a bunch of other new members and members that have been in for years, along with our community manager. So we'll get you started off quickly. And with the concept of within that first month of joining, connecting you, increasing the number of people that you can have authentic and meaningful conversations about your business right away. That's the concept.
Awesome. We can't wait to see you inside.